The phone rang at exactly 9:17 on a Tuesday night, and the air smelled like a huge storm was coming. Not just rain, but that heavy, earthy smell right before a downpour. I hadn't moved that fast in years. 1 second, I'm just a 52-year-old American dad slumped on the couch, half watching a rerun. I've got short salt and pepper hair, a square jaw, and I'm wearing a faded navy blue polo shirt with gray sweatpants. The next second, I'm a blur of motion. My heart, which had been basically hibernating for 2 years, suddenly started pounding in my throat like crazy. The popcorn bowl I was eating literally went flying, scattering kernels all over the rug like tiny, buttery accusations. Why the insane adrenaline rush? Because this wasn't just any ringtone. It was the ringtone. The one I stubbornly refused to change. An old, distorted guitar riff I assigned to my son, Michael, years ago. Back when we talked. Back when he actually called me Dad. 2 years. Can you even imagine that? 2 years of total silence. 2 years of birthday cards mailed back to me, unopened. 2 years of holidays feeling empty and hollow. The word Dad felt like a ghost, an identity that wasn't mine anymore. It wasn't just quiet, it was a deafening, suffocating emptiness, like I was living in a soundproof box. My throat was bone dry. I swallowed hard and somehow managed to croak out a shaky, "Hello?" And then, after 730 days of agonizing silence, the first thing he asked me, with no hello, no warm-up, was, "Do you still keep the ladder on the left side of the garage?" That's it. 12 words. Not exactly the epic reunion I'd pictured, right? No, "Hi, Dad," no, "How are you?" Just a random question about a ladder. But in that 1 second, the silence didn't just break, it completely shattered. And what rushed in wasn't just his voice. It was oxygen. It was the deepest breath I'd taken in 2 long years. To understand why a boring question about a ladder felt like an absolute miracle, you have to know about the massive crater that opened up between us 2 years ago. We used to be incredibly close. We did all the cliché dad and son stuff. We played baseball in the driveway, me throwing my terrible curveball and him trying to hit it, both of us laughing like idiots. We made late-night pancakes. We built model rockets that always crashed. The garage was our spot. He was my sidekick, my best friend. I thought our bond was unbreakable. Then he turned 23. It was a huge year. He got a good job across the country. I was so proud of him, bursting with it, but underneath I was terrified of losing him. And like an idiot, I turned my fear into criticism with one single terrible sentence. It's insane how a lifetime of good moments can be wiped out by 1 second of insecurity. He called me, sounding totally defeated, saying he was quitting the job after only 6 weeks. I could hear he was struggling, but instead of just listening, my own anxiety took over. Maybe if you stuck with something for once, you'd actually see it pay off, I heard myself say. The words hung in the air, dripping with a condescending tone I didn't even know I had. I remember the exact moment. The tiny gasp of air on his end of the line. Then that little click in his throat he does before he says something witty. But this time, there was nothing. Just the dial tone. He didn't just hang up, he disconnected from my life. The silence that came next was the echo of my own massive failure. I texted like a madman. Apologies, explanations, anything. I didn't mean it. I was just worried. Please call me. Nothing. I wrote these long, heartfelt emails that he never answered. Finally, my wife, a brilliant 50-year-old woman with kind blue eyes and her blonde hair always in a practical ponytail, gave me some old-school advice. Maybe handwriting would feel softer, she said. So I mailed a real paper letter. It felt like shouting into a black hole. Still nothing. Month 1, I told myself he just needed space. Month 6, I figured he was just busy. By month 12, I ran out of excuses. That's when I stopped making excuses and just started counting the days of silence. 7:30 mornings waking up to a dark phone screen. 7:30 evenings staring at the garage wall. The aluminum extension ladder was still leaning there, on the left side, right where it always was. I refused to move it. Moving it felt like admitting he was never coming back. It was like dismantling a shrine. I kept it there as a beacon, a placeholder, waiting for him to come home and borrow it for some project. You have no idea how loud absence is until you live in it. The coffee maker sounded like it was screaming at me. Every empty chair at the dinner table was a monument to him being gone. It was a constant gnawing reminder of what I had lost. I kept that ladder there like a lighthouse, a silent signal. I imagined him driving by, seeing it, and remembering us. Pathetic? Maybe. But it was all I had left. It was my last hold on the us we used to be. So, back to the ring. That Tuesday night, the rain smell, the popcorn on the floor. Back to my son's voice, which sounded so unfamiliar. Do you still keep the ladder on the left side of the garage? My voice was a dry rasp. Yeah, I said. That one word took all my strength. He let out a tiny sigh of relief. I need to borrow it. Borrow it, just like that. The insane normalcy of it almost knocked me over. My brain was a tornado of anger, hurt, and joy. I wanted to scream. Where the hell have you been? Do you have any idea what you put me through? But something stopped me. A tiny tremble in his voice told me to just shut up and listen. So I did. I swallowed the lump in my throat and asked, when? Tonight, he said, his voice a little more urgent now. I let out a choked, disbelieving laugh. My brain was still buffering on the word tonight. Then he dropped the bombshell. I'm outside. I literally dropped my phone. It clattered on the floor. My hands were shaking, slick with sweat. I fumbled to pick it up and stumbled to the front door, my legs feeling like they were stuck in concrete. The porch light cut a weak yellow circle in the damp night. And there he was, a 25-year-old man who looked like a ghost from my past. He has a lean, oval face, but you could barely see it under a dark green hoodie and a full, dark beard that was a stark reminder of the 2 years that had passed. He was wearing black jeans and worn-out sneakers, standing next to a battered old suitcase. This wasn't the kid I remembered. I didn't hug him. I wanted to, so badly. But we were frozen, stuck in that awkward silence, the air thick with 2 years of unspoken words. So instead of a hug, I just stepped aside and gestured for him to come in. He rolled the suitcase inside, the wheels rumbling loudly. And then a miracle happened. Our old golden retriever, Gus, who hates strangers, exploded from the living room. His tail was a blur, and he was whining with joy, nudging Michael's hand, his leg, acting like his best friend had finally come home. That broke the ice. The dog, who never liked anyone, just gave my son the most incredible welcome home party. I managed a weak smile. Even the dog's mad at you, I said. He smiled back, a flash of that old half-smile. Took you long enough to notice, he replied, and for a second, the old witty Michael was back. We stood in the hallway, and I realized it then. The ladder. It was never about the ladder. It was the password. It was the key. The real question, the one that had been suffocating me for 730 days, was, are we still the kind of father and son who can fix things together? We made tea. Not because we're fancy, but because you need something to do with your hands when your world is spinning out of control. We sat at the kitchen table, a silent battleground of unspoken history. He told me everything. He'd been living in a tiny apartment only 4 hours away. The news hit me like a punch to the gut. 4 hours. All this pain, and he was practically in the next county. How could I not have known? He'd quit the job because his boss had mocked his stutter, a stutter he mostly outgrew, but that comes back under pressure, during a big presentation. The humiliation was too much, but he never told me. Why? Because, he said, pride tasted better than pity. He was afraid of my judgment, of hearing another critical comment from me after what I'd said. The irony was crushing. I asked him, why tonight, why now? He shrugged, stirring his tea. My shower ceiling caved in, he said. Landlord said bring a ladder, or pay $300. I waited. I knew there was more. He took a sip, then added, and Mom sent me a picture of your garage. Ladder still there. Figured maybe it was an invitation. My wife, that sneaky, brilliant woman. I didn't even know she took that photo. She must have known I was clinging to that ladder like a lifeline. She had turned my desperate, silent symbol into a literal invitation. Thank God for sneaky, brilliant women. I pushed a little. Was the ladder the only reason? He looked up from his mug, his eyes tired but honest. No, he admitted, his voice a whisper. But it was the smallest one. I nodded. That was it. Sometimes the smallest key opens the biggest, most important door. It was never about a physical ladder. It was about the metaphorical one that could get him back home. We walked to the garage side by side. The silence wasn't awful anymore. This was a comfortable quiet, a truce. It was the sound of two people who had way too much to say but didn't know where to start. He reached for the ladder and lifted it like it was nothing. The garage light hit his hands, and I saw them, thick, rough calluses. They were new. They were proof of a hard life he'd been living completely without me. In that moment, I realized he wasn't my kid anymore. He was a man who had been out in the world, building his own resilience. You could stay tonight, I offered. Get some rest. He set the ladder down and turned to face me, his eyes serious. I don't want to pretend nothing happened, he said, his voice firm and clear. And just like that, the dam inside me broke. Good, I replied, the word raw and honest, because I'm out of pretending. For the next hour, we sat on the old red Coleman cooler in the cold garage. It was hard and uncomfortable, just like the conversation we needed to have. We passed a flashlight back and forth like a talking stick. Whoever held the light was the only one who could talk. It sounds weird, but it worked. He went first. He told me how my stick with it comment became a voice in his head, telling him he wasn't good enough every time he failed. It fed his anxiety and made him terrified to even try. Then it was my turn. I told him how the silence felt like a piece of me was being cut off every single day. I told him about the sleepless nights, the constant worry, and how I replayed our last conversation 1,000 times. I admitted my fear, my shame, and my profound regret. We didn't solve 2 years of pain in 1 hour. But we did something more important. We named the cuts. We put them out in the open. And once you name them, they can finally start to heal. At some point, he looked at me and said, I need help fixing the ceiling, not just the ladder. This was it. The real request. He was letting me back in. I can do that, I said, my voice thick with emotion. We shook hands, like a couple of idiots. It was a formal, awkward gesture, but it was a deal, a promise to try again, because sometimes fathers and sons just have to improvise. Then, we loaded the ladder into his car. It felt lighter now. As we closed the trunk, I asked, Want breakfast before you drive back? He gave me a full, genuine smile. Only if we're still talking by the time the toast pops. Challenge accepted. We made it past the toast. We had a full-on feast. Eggs, bacon, coffee. The kitchen, usually so painfully quiet, was filled with a comfortable silence, the clinking of forks, and easy conversation. We were actually connecting. He showed me photos of his studio apartment. It was cluttered, but it was his. In the corner was a stack of canvases and a half-finished painting. He was still an artist, a passion I had pushed him away from. I showed him a new scar on my hand from trying and failing to fix the garbage disposal alone. We were trading stories, weaving the threads of our lives back together. We didn't give any dramatic apology speeches. We just kept talking, like pumping an old well until the water finally runs clear. When he finally left, he hugged me. It was one of those quick, awkward guy hugs, but I felt the squeeze. It was real. We were back. As he got into his car, I leaned down. The ladder stays on the left side, I told him, until you bring it back. He grinned. Might take a while, he called out. Ceilings are complicated. So are Dad's, I replied. He laughed, a real, full laugh, and for the first time in 2 years, the world felt whole again. That was 3 months ago. The insane joy of that night has settled into something deeper, a quiet, steady contentment. Here's the progress report. The changes are small, but they are huge. He's driven home 4 weekends. 4. Sometimes we just sit on the porch and talk. The silence that used to be a weapon is now a comfort. We fixed his ceiling, then my gutters, then the fence. Every nail we hammered was helping repair us. We were learning to be a team again, fixing things side by side. We argue about baseball. A lot. We debate about pineapple on pizza. It's disgusting and he's wrong. These arguments aren't angry. They're the sound of a normal, healthy relationship. We text each other stupid memes at 2 a.m. like teenagers. It's a silly digital reminder that we're connected again. The ladder's still gone. It's in his apartment, and I refuse to buy a new one. That empty space in my garage isn't an absence anymore. It's a placeholder. It's a testament to his return and a promise that he's coming back again. If you've ever sat in a silence that felt heavier than bricks, a silence that literally stole your breath, I see you. You are not alone. If these stories about the ordinary stuff, ladders, toast, dogs, that stitch people back together, mean something to you, smash that subscribe button. Let's keep sharing these messy, beautiful journeys. And drop a comment. What's the smallest key that unlocked a big, important door in your life? I read every single one. I used to think reconciliation had to be this huge, dramatic movie scene with swelling music. I was so wrong. Turns out it needs something way simpler and way more powerful. Space for pride to shrink and curiosity to grow. My pride blinded me. His pride kept him silent. The second we let go of that, we made room for real questions and real answers. My son's question, "Do you still keep the ladder on the left side of the garage?" wasn't a question, it was a test. It was his way of asking if I still kept the welcome mat out for him. It was about whether he could risk showing up broken, vulnerable, and needing help, and still be let in. He needed to know if the dad who fixed things, the safe harbor, was still here. I almost missed it. I was so focused on wanting a big apology that I almost missed the real meaning of his simple question. He just wanted a tool, but in that request was the deepest apology he could offer. Once we both let go of our expectations, we met in the middle. We met over the simple task of fixing a ceiling, and that's where the healing really began. The biggest breakthroughs don't come with a bang. They come with a quiet question about a ladder. This insane 2-year journey taught me a few massive lessons. Think of these as life hacks for your relationships. Silence is a language. Don't just hear it. Listen to what it's actually saying. His silence wasn't about rejecting me. It was about protecting himself from my judgment. It was a shield. Now I know to listen to the quiet. Keep the thing they might need in the exact spot. It's not superstition. It's a signal flare. That ladder was a physical sign that our connection was still there, waiting. It shows you haven't given up. When they ask for the ladder, just hand them the ladder. Don't give them a lecture. My first mistake was offering criticism. The second chance came when he was vulnerable, and the only right move was to offer help, no questions asked. Fixing a ceiling together fixes more than the ceiling. The physical act of working together is a powerful way to mend a relationship. While patching plaster, we were patching up our old wounds. Second chances rarely look like the first draft. Let the new shape surprise you. I wanted things to go back to how they were, but relationships don't go backward. This new version isn't a perfect memory, but it's real, it's earned, and it's so much better. He's talking about moving closer next year, not 4 hours away, but maybe a town over. I'm trying to play it cool, acting all nonchalant like, oh, that'd be nice. But inside, I am losing my mind with excitement. We're even planning to build a tiny workshop. A real one. We're already arguing about the layout and what tools to buy, and it's the best sound in the world. It's the sound of a future being built, one argument at a time. Maybe one day, he'll borrow the ladder again, and he'll bring it back with a dent in it. A dent and a story, and I will take that trade every single time. A dent and a story are 1,000,000 times better than silence and absence. So that's how 12 simple words ended 2 years of suffocating silence and started something far louder. The sound of hammers, of laughter, of a dog snoring because the whole family is together. If you're waiting for a big movie-style reconciliation, you might be missing the quiet phone call or the knock on the door. If you're hoarding an apology, maybe try offering a toolbox instead. Offer a small gesture of help. Actions are louder than words. And if you're ever lucky enough to get a ridiculous question about a ladder after years of pain, just say yes. Say yes before you can overthink it. Because that ridiculous question might just be the smallest key to the biggest door. It might be the oxygen you've been desperate for. Thanks for hanging out with me. If this helps, share it with someone who's sitting in their own quiet and might just need one weird question to break their silence. And hey, subscribe if you want to know if we ever agree on pizza toppings. Spoiler alert, we won't, but we'll keep ordering it together. And that, I've learned, is what truly matters. Talk soon.